Hello and welcome to another edition of PaynePoints of Interest. I'm Sarah Harbuck and with me is Michael Payne. And we're going to get into a very interesting question today. I'm not sure even how to pronounce this user's. It's just a bunch of letters. They said, helping parents modernize a small business. We need advice on whether or not some employees should see the pricing. That's the header. So this question is, starting to take over and modernize my parents' window cleaning business that they started over 30 years ago. It's a small company with around 10 employees. Unfortunately, the business is run like it was in the 1990s. A lot of issues, and there's a lot of issues with that. The big thing I've been working on is a job management software and started to use one called Jobber. The issue is, while you can limit which employees see prices, you can't limit based off of a particular job. So, for example, I make it so employee X can see prices so they can invoice customers, but now they can see prices for every job in the system. What would be your opinion on what I should do? If you have any experience, let me know. You're a software developer.
I am.
So what advice do you have for this individual? Is there a software that he can use that can do that? He says he's using Jobber. I've never heard of that.
So I've heard of Jobber before, and it's a pretty straightforward, basic, job tracking system.
Okay.
The question here is really geared around a theory within business. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's a managerial issue. Okay. My first question would be, what is the reason why employees shouldn't be able to see all employees responsible for invoicing shouldn't be able to see pricing?
Yeah, what is there a discrepancy? Like, you would think there's a system or a standard. Hey, for these jobs we charge this. For these jobs there'd be like a tiered system based on what the job is, and that would just be general knowledge to, say, managerial staff or people in charge of, like you said, invoicing. Right.
This comes from insecurity. Okay. In most managers, we're talking about an insecurity thing here. So the long text he wrote as a backup to it, that his parents are insistent that employees shouldn't see pricing because they have a set of concerns, like a set of worries that things like it'll cause the employees to start asking uncomfortable questions like, why can't you pay me more? Or that employees might try to steal customers after they quit because they know the pricing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a problem that every service-based business really kind of finds. And what concerns me is that if you're concerned about employees stealing customers after they quit, right? It's because they can see how much more lucrative it is for them to do it on their own than it is to do it for them. Right. So you're not paying people enough. Yeah. Right?
So maybe that's an underlying concern here as well in their minds. Well, we probably don't pay our employees enough, and then they see how much we make on a job. And,
right.
Yeah.
So when you have two choices when it comes to business, either you deal with all these things that come from it, and keep your stuff as not transparent as possible, hide as much as you can. Right? And you're going to have a stressful life running a business.
Yeah.
Okay? Or you start to be reasonable with yourself and other people. Okay? There's a list of directions here, list of things that this user thinks he should do, trying to answer his own question. Okay? The first one is that he thinks he could designate team leads that can see pricing. Have them signing non-disclosures and understand it's sensitive information and not share it with anybody. Okay. Then he says we can leave the app partially handicapped, no pricing, right? And they still have to do invoices on paper.
That still seems very 1990. Which he even comments on.
Yeah, exactly. And he's also saying that he could potentially do some workarounds in the app, but he doesn't think that's really a good way to do it, right? Or he could go to a different piece of software. Okay. And actually, I hadn't even looked at the comments. That first comment on the list from Safety Man 35, he says transparency. That's it. I mean, this first thing, designating team leads, even the employee says it's going to be a hard sell to do it that way because his parents have trust issues with employees.
Well, and he also comments to a response to another commenter that, they've had people leave and try to steal clients from them, which, I mean, that's going to be a problem any service-based business has.
Right. Are you so unconfident in the work that you're doing that you think someone can steal your employee or steal your customers?
Right. I mean, if they've had this business for over 30 years, they're established. They're a community name.
Right.
They've got probably all the proper permits and insurance and all the things. And a lot of people, when they think, well, I can make a lot of money doing this if I just do it on my own. They don't realize sometimes all the back-end stuff you have to do in order to get to that point to be established.
Right.
So while it may look easy, it isn't always easy to just, I'm going to go start my own window washing business or whatever it is they do.
You lose customer for like 1 month or 2 months, right? And then they realize the people who went through the effort of establishing a new business, it's going to go one of two ways. Either they're going to do it better than you, which is what your real concern is, right? Or they're not going to realize how little profit there actually is, right? Until they start getting into it, right? And then they have to make the decision to work the way you do and skimp on everything they possibly can, or they have to charge more money than you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lose-lose situation to be hiding all this stuff. And this is not a software problem. This is a managerial problem.
Most people are commenting here to them. It seems insane to me that you wouldn't have transparency pricing with your employees. You're screwing your employees if you're that afraid that they're going to do something like either leave and start their own business or complain that they're not getting paid enough. I feel like being honest and upfront and open about this kind of stuff, while yes, maybe if you have some sort of proprietary, like sensitive information, your business is built around intellectual property, maybe then you'd be a little bit more cloak and dagger. But with a service-based business, why wouldn't your employees know what you charge for a job and what's been invoiced? And, either pay your employees more if you think you're lowballing them, or make them sign these non-disclosure agreements. Like, I don't know. I just feel like that's a lot of work to keep all that stuff hidden.
Right.
It just seems like a problem.
My thing is,
maybe I'm
I'd like to see the structure of this a little bit, the structure of the company a little bit, and how it works. I mean, sit down and look at the structure of the company.
Yeah.
Right? The people who are doing the work on the jobs, right, should not be the people who are, this is a cash management 101, okay? People doing the work on the jobs should not be the ones who are creating the invoices.
Right.
Okay? The people who are creating the invoices should not be the people who are receiving the payments. And especially when it comes to cash, right? The person who receives the cash payment should not be the person who's depositing it in the bank.
Right. It's a accountability thing.
Yeah. You have to have cash management controls in this situation. And if there's enough separation there with that basic separation, then your people doing the invoicing, your back office workers, shouldn't really give a crap what you're billing.
Yeah.
Right? Because a back office worker who's doing invoices, who's doing some sort of accounts receivable, does understand the basic concepts of accounting.
Yeah.
Or should.
And
understand that gross revenue, okay, even if they could calculate what it costs to do a particular job, what they can't calculate is the indirect expenses.
Yeah.
Right? That's got to be in the hands of the accounts payable department.
Yeah.
And I say department, that could just be one guy named Joe over here in a chair who deals with money going out of the business while other people deal with money coming into the business.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I worked for it was a family-run sign company back in my days in college, back in the 90s, and it had been around for 30 years at that point. And I knew what we billed for. I was a graphics designer. Like, I worked in the graphics designer department, and I did the vinyl work on signs. And I knew as a, hourly employee what we charged per hour, per sign, per dimension, for different things. They didn't hide that stuff from us. Sometimes the manager of the sign company, Brent, would come in and be like, hey, I got this proposal, check it and read and make sure I didn't, it's all right, me or the secretary, and check my grammar here. And we would see these proposals and these bids, and, we would see what the money was like. And I got paid good money in 1997 for a college student. I was making double minimum wage at the time, which was back then that was a big deal. Not so much now, probably, but back then it was good money, and I wasn't discontent. I was just a grunt person. I did the work. So in that small family-run business with less than, I think we had about 10 employees at the time. I mean, I knew what we charged for just about everything, and it wasn't an issue. And the other people, the guys that did the sign maintenance and went out and serviced signs and replaced neon and did all, they knew. I mean, they weren't invoicing the companies, but we just had a general idea, based on,
right.
Well, most of those guys had been working there for decades. So I don't know. I just didn't, in my personal experiences, it wasn't a problem. And I didn't go out and start a sign business after that and undercut them and all that jazz. But I think it just depends on the type of employee you have. But I think that
right.
hiding it all is just not.
If you're hiding it all,
it just seems like a lot of work.
You got problems, and you got problems with your employees, or you got problems with your processes. It doesn't matter. You've got other problems, and software's not going to fix it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was an interesting topic. That was interesting to talk about. That was fun. If you guys have any comments or anything to add to our discussion today, why don't you hit us up on our website at PaynePoints.com, Facebook or LinkedIn at PaynePoints, Instagram at Payne.points, and Twitter at PointsPayne. That'll be all for us today. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.